Good morning. Welcome everyone who's coming into the session with Carol and David. Carol and David, as you were told, work at Alcon and work together, but also work in different groups. So I'd like to first start by saying that if you have a question for Carol and David, Carol and David, please put it in the chat and we will definitely get to your question. But I'd like for Carol and David just to tell us a little bit more about themselves, just a little bit of background about both of you, if you don't mind. I'd like people to know you like I know you and know a little bit more about you. So Carol, do you want to go first? Tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Carolina. Most people call me Caro. I'm from the Netherlands originally. I'm an optometrist, and I live now in the United States. I lived a little bit all over the world. I did my PhD in Australia. I lived in Ghana for a while where I provide eye care for children in Ghana and help further the career of Ghanaian optometrists. And now I work at Alcon in Fort Worth. And yeah, I think that's something about me.
And you also have a foundation.
Yes. My foundation is called the Optical Foundation. It's an international team. We're a small organization, but we're making a lot of impact. We're really trying to make eye care accessible through education, research, and comprehensive eye exams, and helping create opportunities for Ghanaian optometry students by providing them travel grants and helping them network and setting up platforms a bit similar to what we're doing here today.
Awesome. Thank you, Carol. Thank you. Now, David, we go way back. We go way back when I used to work directly with you. So, but please tell everyone we want to know about David. Tell us about
you. And then going after Carol and the introduction is always like, oh man, how can I compete with that? I'm David Borja. I'm a biomedical engineer, and I work in Alcon. I do lens design at Alcon. I'm lucky enough to design contact lenses. Before that, I was designing IOLs. And that's when we worked together, Freddie, back in Fort Worth. We're in Johns Creek, Georgia here now. It's a beautiful place. I'm from all over the country. I'm from here in the U.S. I was born in Queens. Lived in Texas and Miami most of my life, and now here in Georgia doing lens design work. And what I love about what I do here at Alcon is that I get a chance to help the way people see. Right, Kara and I were both high myopes. We always have to have glasses or contact lenses on, and since I was a kid, this is something I really wanted to do with my career and make sure that people have access and to good vision correction. So that's what drives me. Working with Carol is about innovating and creating new things. That's all I do at work, and I'm lucky enough to do that with Carol on the communication side as well here at Alcon. So it's really great.
Awesome. Can you, just one thing, you said a term that I don't know everyone would understand. You said that you do have to wear glasses, but what's a high myope? Just.
So I think maybe Carol can explain that a little bit better.
Sure.
I'm laughing.
To step on the clinic's toes.
I'm laughing because this is where we always bicker about like who is the clinician and who is the honorary optometrist. A high myope is someone that's short-sighted. So your distance vision is not clear, but your vision near is clear. So you need glasses or contact lenses to see clearly at distance. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm one of those too. So, but we do have a question from Christopher Kelly. And I will read the question, but y'all will be answering it. When presenting ideas to those with the power or money to affect change or affect perception, how do you leverage your individual personalities to get buy-in or interest? Good question, Christopher. Thank you.
Carol, you want to start? You want me to go? Okay. All right. look, we both have me and Carol have very different personalities, and we have different spectrums, I think, of our you know, of the ranges of personalities, right? I'm very much introvert. Carol's very much an extrovert. We leverage that. I always feel like, you know, Carol's very good at presenting and explaining things. I think where my personality comes in is that I use more of what I call a judo technique. I bring people in, make sure that they're heard, make sure that they're welcome, and then use their own you know ideas to further along what we're working on. So that's, I think, where how we use our different and so the team is made up of these two spectrums of personalities that we try to leverage, you know, going at it with, Carol going at it with one technique, and I'll go with another. So it's that's a great question. Thank you, Christopher. Carol, do you want to add anything?
You want to add anything, Carol?
No, I think you said that perfectly, and I think a lot of when you're trying to influence people to make a change, a lot of it is about timing. Is the timing right for your idea, and how to maybe seed some of that, like the things that we've done in the past. For example, we build a clinical innovation tech suite, so we needed a lot of equipment to really modernize our clinic. And we started planting seeds a few months before we wanted to really make those changes. And I think talking to the right people and putting thoughts in their minds, and if you repeat something over and over, people can tend to start repeating it. And I think it's all about like planting little seeds for the things that you want to do. And I think both our personalities work really well with that, because we both talk to people in a different way. But if you both have the same goal and planting those seeds, that could work really well to convince the organization to make a change.
Yeah, let me add one more thing to that, right? Like, I think, Carol excels in kind of like the big meeting environment, and the she excels in everything, right? And like, I try to focus on the one-on-one kind of interactions on the sideline, and providing data, providing information, providing direction. Carol does that too, and does that probably better than I do. But like, I think we also utilize our different personalities in that sense. That a perfect example is planting the seeds. You plant the seeds with data, with ideas, months in advance, and you do it, and several people, together or separate, and then you let those ideas and come to fruition. And I think that's what I consider a judo technique. It's like you're using minimal effort and using their momentum to help bring about the change.
Yeah, and we also think a lot about the story we want to tell. And I think I tend to just jump into things and not think it through. David, on the other hand, is really good in building a story and putting everything together and building that story. So that's, I think, where our skill sets are very complementary, because whenever we do something, we did a lot of vlogging over the past few years. David is really the brain behind the script and the jokes. We debate who's funnier, but maybe David is a little bit funnier. But but then we and then I mostly do the visuals. So we really work together. We have a vision in whatever we do, and we put our skill sets together to really get the story out there, to plant the seeds, to get people excited, to use our enthusiasm. But it really is a collaboration and a co-conspiracy. Yeah.
Thank you both. Great answers. Thank you. I see where Stephen Panza has asked, how do you build trust with a co-conspirator?
Yeah, that, I think, when we were working on this presentation, I think, like, it kept coming up. That is the critical part of all of the high-powered, dynamic kind of team up, right? It's trust. It's all based on trust. Every single one of those items that we discussed, they will ultimately boil down to trust. You have to have trust that you're both working together on with the same objective, and it's not a competition. This is, it's not a zero-sum game. We're in there for that shared kind of achievement, right? And this is true for everything, and that's why we set up those 5 criteria in that way, right? The complementary skill set, working in it really is about maybe finding somebody not in your own group, but in a partner group, upstream, downstream customer, but it's somebody that's shares an aligned goal with you, right? And this is all about the trust and not stepping on each other's toes, giving each other the spotlight when it's needed. And I think, this is make or break for finding that co-conspirator. Carol, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think if you look at us specifically, like how did we build that trust? I think building trust is most important, but I think how we did it is, I think we showed some vulnerability. We shared some things that were going on in our personal lives, in our work lives. So we built this connection, and I think it's also okay to sometimes to disagree about something, and then find like it's okay to fight as long as you find a way back to each other and reconnect. And I think if you go through something where you disagree and then you find your way back to each other, that also builds trust, because you know that you can be you through authentic self, you can be who you are, and then you can still find a way back to reconnect if you disagree on something. So I think that's really how we built trust over the past few years, to put ourselves out there, to be honest, be open, to just put all our ideas out there. Sometimes ideas are a little bit scary to express, right? Especially when they're a little bit crazy, like,
Yeah.
hey, I want to I want to present in a dinosaur costume.
Yeah.
It's a bit
Yeah,
scary to put it out there.
yeah. And then but yeah, maybe a little bit of judgment can't be avoided, but like, yeah, like try to avoid judgment on crazy ideas you want to spark. If you want to create change, create innovation, spark ideas, you have to be able to like listen and not pass judgment, and like, it's a very important part of building that trust, right? Um, and the trust is that's a great question. I mean, fundamentally, it all breaks down on that trust, and that trust has to be gained over time, organically, in my opinion, and maintained.
Mhm.
Love those answers. That is so great. And knowing the way that I know that the both of you work, I know that y'all have built that trust up. And like you said, you're two different people. You're going to have different ideas and different opinions and different ways you want to do things. So I'm so glad that, we benefit from the fact that you guys actually work so well together and trust each other. So Esther asked this question: do you always need to be in the same organization as your co-conspirator, just as in the case of Carol and David? You have to
Oh,
work in the same place?
great question, Esther. No, definitely not. I think I have a lot of co-conspirators also outside of Alcon, of course, in my foundation. But I have another example where I was working on a big paper, a worldwide paper with leaders in the field, and I was matched up with someone in the UK. And this was during COVID. So the only time we met was through Zoom. And we built this beautiful relationship. We'd never met each other in person, but we built this friendship and this working relationship, which then actually led to working together on another project. So no, you can find co-conspirators everywhere, and you can find a lot of them. You also don't have to, I don't have just David. I also work with other people. And you see that with some people it's a little bit easier to work together with other people it's maybe a little bit harder. And then you just really try to find those people that you match perfectly with, but that can be within your organization or outside of your organization.
Go ahead, David, if you had something to offer. If you
No. I think in my mind, when you're on the same team, I think that's a different dynamic. When you're on different organizations, different parts of the team, it really opens up the possibilities for a collaboration that will be, you know, have more buy-in across from different people from different parts of the organization. It helps you increase the way that the message gets delivered. It has more broader like support from different organizations. I just think that if you're in the team, okay, that's great. That's this. A lot of what we're talking about is just basically team building. I think Marissa mentioned that, right? This is effectively team building, but the difference with a co-conspirator is that you are not in the same team. That you are somehow, working across boundaries, geographical or organizational, or even in other organizations, right? And that is the key to this. And sure, the team is kind of like scaled up version of this, and it requires many relationships like this. But in we're looking at this as a real change maker is making it cross organization.
Awesome. Thank you, Kara and David. And just to remind you, if you do have a question or if you have a comment that you'd like to add into this conversation, please put it in chat and we will address that. And Marissa Sanchez, thank you for your comments. Those are really compelling. So thank you for sharing those. I have a question that I'm going to ask, which is, how has this collaboration between the two of you made you look at yourselves in a different way? Or has it, I guess, has it made you look at yourselves in a different way, either in a personal way, if you care to share that, or professionally? How is this working together? Because that's not how you started out. You started out as two very different people in two different departments doing your own thing, and you found a way to come together. So how has that made you look at yourselves differently? And Sonia, we'll get to your question after that one.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with just setting up how we started working together, because that was because we're both in two different departments. David is engineer, I'm a clinician. We're in different departments. We were working together on a project, and I was talking to David, and he's like, "Oh, I'm interested to learn more about clinical." I was like, "Oh, I can make that happen, but I like to learn more about optics. So why don't we partner up and just share some of the things that we're working on?" So that's really how we started working together. And maybe David, you want to go first to answer Freddie's question?
Okay, yeah. I think going back to the co-conspirator concept, and it's about finding different perspectives that open up your view of what's going on, and it's critical to this. And I think like as you work on these, like high impact, high achieving, relationships, teamwork like this, it's always good to go back and reflect on, how have you changed? How has this dynamic changed me? Okay, so I'm definitely like an introvert, and I'm definitely like want to, let the data speak for itself, right? But I think working with Carol has really showed me the importance of, the telling a story, the perspective that you're giving, the story that you're telling, and everything that really motivates people to change. And I think working with Carol, I've learned the importance of that, and really how to do it very, very compelling, right? She's very much a compelling storyteller. So I've learned that with her, and looking back on this, you kind of you take that different perspective, you look at your own perspective, and now you kind of understand your own perspective a little bit better. If you're in this type of high performing team up, like it should make you question the decisions you're making. It should make you question your choices and your point of view. If it's not, I don't think you're effectively listening to to your teammates, to your co-conspirators. Like and taking full advantage of the diverse perspective, if that makes any sense.
It does, David. And I look at you as a person who is an introvert, and that's kind of always what I saw you as. But to have seen you get up on a TEDx stage as an
Yeah,
introvert was
yeah.
really amazing. Kudos to you for that.
Thank you, thank you, thank
And to Carolina to do it not once but twice, and then to
you.
host. So
Yeah.
enough
And
of
how
my
many
fangirling. Go ahead.
and how many people has Carol, like, encouraged and supported to get to the TEDx stage, and like Kevin,
Yes,
it's
yes,
yeah, she's amazing
she
on
is.
many fronts, right?
She
No,
is.
no, no. Okay, let's stop there.
Okay,
Getting
okay.
uncomfortable. I
I,
think
I,
what I got out of what I learned and how I changed over the past, like we've been working together about 4 years now. I think how I have changed. I think I gained a lot of confidence from working with David. I learned a lot of new skills, a lot of, like, I'm a clinician. I don't have any engineering skills, and I David introduced to me to all these skills, and I started learning Minitab, and I started actually learning how to use Excel properly, and it just gave me a lot of confidence in myself. But it also made me realize that you can do everything alone. We are all capable of doing everything alone, but if you do it with someone else, you become better because you listen to someone else's perspective. You use that person as a sounding board, and like you show a presentation, hey, what do you think, and they have feedback, and you just become better when you partner up with someone else. And I think that's the thing I've learned. I can do a lot by myself, but I just love working with other people because you make each other better, and if you make each other better, you lift each other up and you get to a different place. And I think that's what I really realized the past 4 years. I think the confidence I gained from working with David and learning about myself, learning about how I communicate, learning about the skills that I can learn as an optometrist. I can learn Tableau. These skills. It's something I can do, and that get that confidence. I think that's something really special, and I'm very happy that I got that over the past 4 years.
absolutely. Thank you both. So what was the biggest challenge you've had to overcome together?
That's a good question. Do you have something that you think of immediately, David?
I mean, I think the easiest things were the trust and the collaboration, right? We built that trust, and we maintained that trust. And um, I think you know, that's primarily um, what we rely on. Yeah, I think uh, in order to maintain that trust, it takes some work, right? And for instance, I think there's been times, and I'd let Carol answer that question about myopia because I don't want to step on her toes. That's her field, and we've had issues where, like, you know um, the clinic calls me up because they need some help, and no one else is available, and like I have to, like, watch what I do and say because I'm not a clinician. So that's Carol's role, and so I think not stepping on each other's toes, and maintaining that trust. I think that's building the trust is one thing, but maintaining it is another. And I think part of that is of course letting the other person shine, but also making sure that their roles are clearly defined, and there's some respect to that role. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think to add is I think we're both very different individuals, and we work on a lot of projects together closely. And like if you do a TEDx talk together, that's a lot of hours that you put in together, or like a CultivatorCon or something like that. So I think you just learn how people work, and it's different, right? I work different than David, and I think learning to work together and to understand each other. Like I have like a lot of energy, and sometimes that I think that's exhausting to work with someone with this much energy. So just learning how you work together, and finding yeah, to understand each other better. And I think that all comes back to trust, because that's how you build the trust. But I think that's a challenging part, right? Because we're not the
Yeah.
same. We're different
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to the perspective issue, right? The difference in perspective. And if you're not really changing, or, at least, analyzing your point of view, and, then you're not really taking advantage the, of the difference in perspective, right?
And it
I,
takes a lot of listening, and truly listening, because sometimes when you're having a debate about something, you're not really listening to the other person. I remember an instance where we were talking about the ideal lens, and I was saying my perspective, and David was saying his perspective, and I think we were on this conversation for about 4 hours. It was like
yeah.
Friday before David was out of town, and I had to give this presentation, and I needed to understand his perspective. 4 hours later, at some point, David said, "Yeah, but this is the ideal lens." And I reacted with, "No, because my patient won't be able to see with this lens." And then we looked at each other. Oh, so you're talking from a different reality than I'm talking from. And when we figured that, it took us 4 hours to get there. And when we figured that out, then we could put things on paper, and we could make our presentation and explain what the ideal lens would be. But it took us 4 hours to just find that out. So it's listening, and good listening, and hearing what the other person says. And that's challenging in any working relationship you have.
Right.
Wow, and it sounds like you need some patience too, because 4 hours.
Oh,
Okay, I wanted to also ask the second part of Esther's question. Do you always have your ideas being bought by the organization? I think what's being asked here is, are you always successful in your co-conspiracy with you
yeah.
that you do? Is it always something that the organization always chooses?
Yeah.
And if so, how do you deal with that? I hope that's what
Yeah,
you're asking.
no, we're not always successful. I think a lot of it comes back, like, I think our ideas are amazing, but I think a lot of it comes back to timing. Maybe it's not the right time. So sometimes that can be a little bit demotivating, right? You worked really hard on something, you brought this idea, and then people like react excited, but then nothing happens with it. That can be a little bit devastating and demotivating. But I believe that maybe it's not the right time. It doesn't mean the idea is a bad idea. It's just not the right time or not the right place. And I think you can just put those ideas on a shelf, and maybe in a few years or in a few months, those ideas come back and you already thought about it. I'll give you an example. I was working on a new process for to run our clinical trials, and the organization wasn't really ready for it. But then something happened, and something needed to work really fast. And I already had that idea in mind. I already worked it out. And then this situation happened, and I could implement it, and everyone was on board, because at that time it was the right time to do it. So it's okay if the ideas don't come to fruition immediately. I think don't feel like it's a bad idea. Sometimes just not the right timing. And I think this is where your co-conspirator comes in, because then you tell each other, we did amazing, but people are not ready, instead of thinking you are not good enough, right? I think you just you need the other person to help you um, feel good about yourself, because sometimes it's a little bit demotivating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The resilience and support is a really important part of the co-conspirator, um, and this is why it's a little bit more than just team, right? It's yeah, it's a support network on top of being a team, right? And these, yeah, you're like we're batting, 300 here. Maybe a third of everything we do, moves forward. I mean, we're R&D. We're supposed to fail. We're supposed to fail fast. Is the kind of idea here. So that's what we're trying to do. So we have crazy ideas. We have crazy projects. We crazy timelines. We push. We push for change. And a lot of times, us, we get, we get no's, we get pushback, and then it's a matter of resiliency and saying like, all right, um, let's maybe reframe this, or go shelve it and come back. We have tons of other ideas too, so we're working on two or three things, right? And I think the other, like, co-conspirator type relationships that I have at work, it is mostly about, like, support and providing that input, that different perspective, providing that support when needed. Because when you are working cross organizational, cross different groups, right? You maybe not um, the nature of what you're doing is going to be change, and the nature of what you're doing is going to be different. So a lot of times what happens is that, like, I'm thinking of another colleague of mine, getting pushback on a project, and no, and now we're working together just to reframe it, and that's part of the support, part of the resilience, and coming back and saying, all right, this is, this, we got to know on this one, but this is how we're going to move forward with something that we've learned from this, right? Learning from when we get the no's, and that's a very important part. It's not a failure unless you fail to learn from it.
Yeah, and I think another example that we have is because if you're with two people, you can really help each other. You're like, we're not often not like, negative at the same time. Yeah, we can lift each other up. And I think a way for us to look at it, if something doesn't work or if something was not well received, is that we feel richer because of it, because we learn so much. We have now new insights. So if maybe a way that we presented our idea was not well received, then when we present our next idea, we've learned from it, and we take all the learnings into account, and we do it better. So every time something happens, I just feel like every negative outcome is not really negative, because it makes you richer. You gain more experience, and you know how to do it better next time. And there's millions of ideas. It's not just one idea that we have. We can just keep going and bring out new ideas.
I love all that. I'm trying to catch some of the nuggets that y'all are saying, especially about, maybe it wasn't the right time. Maybe it wasn't a no, it was a not yet, right? So I love that. Thank you both for that. I have a question from Suzanne here that says, do co-conspirators need a plan or a tool? What has helped you when collaborating?
Yeah. So in my mind, this today we have a lot of tools for working together, right? Teams, Zoom, WebEx, Slack. These kinds of things allow us to maybe work on the same file together, and work across boundaries, work across organizations. I really do think that what we do, um, even if we're in the same room, we're working, online, and it's really been facilitated with working online. And text is fine, email is horrible, and it's all about face-to-face, understanding of each other in the project, right? And so I think, plan. No, I don't think it's really about a plan. It's about building trust, and moving ideas forward. Um, it's about that interaction, and the face to face is really there. There's no substitute. But WebEx and Zoom is really and Teams are really help out on these kinds of things. What
Yeah,
about you, Karen?
when we work together, we have two screens. One is sharing on Teams, the other is sharing on WebEx. So we're working on at the same time. I think in the sense of plan, maybe I think what our plan always is to share a story. Because whatever you do, you got to share the story, and you cannot wait till the end. You got to take people with you along the way. So if you work on something, whatever it is, show people a little bit of what you're working on early on, So they get excited and they come along with you in the story instead of like putting everything out there at the end. So a lot of times when we're working on new innovation, we give people little snippets and we show them, oh, this is what we're working on. And so they get excited, they know something is going on, and then we present when we're ready to present. But I think taking people with you along the way is very important. That's also part of like planting the seeds to get where you want to go.
Awesome. Thank you. I see other people are getting those nuggets too. Share the story, take people along the way. I love that. Let me go to Leslie. And Leslie says, could you share any tips on how to keep the engagement fire with your co-conspirators on over time?
Yeah. Carol, you want to start that one?
I don't know. I think, how do you keep it, like how do we keep going? Well, first of all, I think both of us, we just have a lot of ideas. The ideas never stop. So whatever, like I think when we look around in our organization, we're like, oh, we could improve that, and then we just start working on it. So I think
Yeah.
that's how we keep going. I think we don't really, sometimes we get demotivated when things don't work out the way that we hoped for,
Yeah.
but then we find a way to recover from that, and then we build new plans. But what if we do it this way? And this is how I look at it. Like there's always naysayers, right? Like there's always people that tell you you can't do something. But I think instead of like getting frustrated by that, it's also almost like a guide what you need to overcome to get those people on board. So when we present something and people are not excited or they're not interested and they give us the reasons why, then we can work on those reasons to make it better. So even when, like, it's almost like a guide. I like people that are a little bit like skeptical about an idea because they give you a guide what you need to work on to make your idea better. And yeah, I think that's how we keep going, because we always have new ideas. And yeah, we just come up with something new. I don't know, David, what do you want to add to that?
Well, we work on a lot of projects across a lot of different areas together, right? And I have co-conspirators in other areas of the organization that we work with on other topics, right? And depending on the focus and what I'm working on at any particular time, yeah, maybe we lose focus on one co-conspirator relationship because I'm working with another, right? A lot more closely. And there's ebbs and flows in what you're doing at work. And yeah, maybe sometimes not everything needs to be like a two-person job. Sometimes I have a lot of detailed work that requires a lot of focus, and I'm concentrated on that, and kind of shut everything else out, all forms of communication, while I work on this very detailed design work, right? And so but but you take a look at what you're working on, you take a look at what your objectives are, you take a look at like who in your organization you're working with, you build, and you have to nurture those co-conspirator relationships with constant, not constant, but like timely contact. And I think maintaining that trust, again, it goes back to maintaining the fire is about maintaining the trust. And the ideas are the fuel for the fire, and it's like you have to maintain the trust, and I think that requires a lot of constant contact, talking about the ideas, talking about sharing the ideas and perspectives from each other. And I think if you have that, then I mean you got to make it fun. You have to make it fun so that it's not boring, it's not like painful. So if you make that fun, you make it, timely contact. I think you maintain the trust. I think those conspirator relationships. I'll call a guy or somebody that I worked with, 2 or 3 years ago, and say, hey, we got something fun to go to do. Like, think about this, what's your perspective? And we jump back into the where we built and where we left the trust, right? So that's what the co-conspirator is about: trust, and that's the fire. That's the ideas are the fuel for the fire. There.
Well, I love that you were able to answer so many questions, and thank you both so much for sharing your wisdom with the people who were lucky enough to come into this session, the people who were blessed enough to hear your initial presentation, to see you on the stage with your video. Thank you so much. I feel richer already, and I already know you guys, but I'm like, okay, I need to remember this. I need to remember that. So thank you both for just being a part of CultivatorCon. Y'all are amazing. Such a great example of how two people who can be very different in some respects can come together and do great things. So appreciate you both. Great job.
Thank you, Freddie.
Y'all
Thank
made
you,
it so
Freddie. This
easy.
is amazing.
Thank
Thank you so
y'all.
much.
Thank y'all. Enjoy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.